Well, I'd like to tell you the next stage in the story of Jim Elliot. Jim Elliot's at university at this stage, and he goes to a place called Wheaton College, and he attends a missionary convention. And at the convention, he meets a man who's a missionary from Brazil. And through this man, Jim becomes very convinced that he should become a missionary in Central America. And he wants to reach tribal people with the gospel, tell them about the Lord Jesus. Now, at this stage, he meets a girl called Elizabeth Howard. And, well, he falls in love with her, but he is so determined and so convinced that he should be a missionary that he says, we can't date because I need to be a missionary. But God convinces him that she too will become a missionary. And they're sitting actually in a graveyard of all places, chatting one night, and he becomes totally convinced that this girl should be his wife. And 5 years later, Jim and Elizabeth marry and become Mr. and Mrs. Elliot. Little did she know that Jim is going to give his life one day to reach people for the Lord Jesus Christ. But I'm going to tell you more about that as we go. But what I want to do for the rest of our little session today is I want to tell you about the 4 other men. And they're really interesting characters. One of them we've met before. His name is called Ed McCully. He's born in 1927. He was raised in Wisconsin in the United States. He went to university and did business and economics. He was 6'2". He was pretty well made. He had size 13 shoes. He was very athletic. And he was brilliant at track events, and he was a star player in the championship football team. But he was a great speaker. And he entered into a national oratorical contest. And out of 10,000 entrants, he ended up being elected as the winner. And when he left university, he used that skill. He became a lawyer, but eventually becomes a missionary. And we'll hear about his story again later on. He marries a girl called Marilou in June 1951. Now, the next guy, so there's 5 guys that went out as missionaries, is a guy called Pete Fleming. He was raised in Seattle in Washington. He became a Christian at the age of 13. And that was through hearing a man who was blind preaching about the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, in high school, he was brilliant at basketball and golf, and he graduated top of his class, and many thought he'd become a university professor, but actually he ended up becoming a missionary. Now, he married a girl called Olive in 1954. Number 4 in the pack is a guy called Roger Udarian. He was born in Montana, and at 9 he had got polio, childhood polio. But he made great progress, and by the time he was in high school, he overcame his illness. He could play basketball, he was brilliant at the piano, and he could play baseball. And after he graduated from high school, he went on to become a paratrooper in the US Army. These were really talented guys, but they're going to give up everything to tell people about Jesus Christ. Now, he married Barbara Orton, and he ended up having a little family, Beth, and his son, Jerry Lee. And this is really important to keep this information in your head as we come to think later on of this missionary story. Number 4 in the pack, apart from Jim Elliot, of course, is Nate Saint. Nate Saint was the 4th of this pack. He was born in Pennsylvania in 1923. He was raised in a strong Christian family. And he became a pilot when he left school. His desire to become a pilot he nearly lost it because of a leg infection. But he went into the army and he served for 3 years, and then he realised that missionary societies needed pilots, and he decided to sign up for that. Now, he had great humour, great laugh, great fun, but one of the things that he developed was what they called a vortex system with a bucket, so he could fly in a spiral so that he would eventually create a downward spiral where the bucket did not move. It sat still in the vortex so that he could drop this bucket when he was flying over areas where he had to put stuff on the ground and there was no landing strip. So these were some amazingly talented guys. Now, we're going to come back to them and talk about them later whenever we discuss their missionary endeavour, their missionary work as they go off to tell people about Jesus Christ.